The galaxy was burning. Until Earth's warship showed up on their radar, far away from the blue skies and green fields of Earth, in a part of space that most humans couldn't even imagine. The galaxy was burning. Not with fire like on Earth, but with war. Planets were being torn apart by massive ships, armed with weapons capable of destroying entire cities in seconds. The stars themselves seemed dimmer, their lights snuffed out by the endless battles raging across the cosmos. It wasn't just one planet or one star system, it was everywhere. The Krillian Empire had spread its claws across the galaxy, enslaving anyone who stood in its way and leaving behind nothing but ashes and silence. For years, resistance fighters tried to push back against the small fleets made up of survivors from conquered worlds banded together, hoping to make a difference. But no matter how hard they fought, the Krillians always came back stronger. Their ships were faster, their weapons more powerful, and their numbers overwhelming. Every battle felt like throwing pebbles at an avalanche. Still, Commander Laura Hayes refused to give up. She led what remained of her fleet with unwavering determination, knowing that if she stopped fighting, there would be no one left to stand against the Empire. Laura was not a tall woman, nor did she have the imposing presence of some military leaders. Her blonde hair was often tied back into a simple ponytail, and her face carried the lines of too many sleepless nights spent planning strategies that rarely worked. Yet, when she spoke, people listened. There was something in her voice, a mix of calm authority and fierce resolve, that inspired hope, even in the darkest moments. Hope was rare these days, but Laura clung to it tightly because without it, she knew they were already lost. It was during one of those desperate missions that everything changed. Laura's fleet had been chased into a dense asteroid field near the edge of the galaxy. They were running low on fuel and ammunition, their ships battered and bruised after weeks of constant fighting. The Krillians were close behind, their sleek black cruisers slicing through space like knives. Just as Laura thought they might finally be cornered, something strange appeared on the radar. At first, she thought it was another enemy ship, maybe reinforcements sent to finish them off. But then she realized, didn't match any known design. "Commander," said Lieutenant Daniel Brooks, his voice tense as he studied the readings on his console. "There's a vessel approaching us. It's different. I've never seen anything like it." Laura frowned and leaned over his shoulder to get a better look. The blip on the screen moved steadily toward them, its trajectory confident and deliberate. Whoever or whatever it was, they weren't afraid of the chaos unfolding around them. "Can we identify it?" she asked, her hand hovering near the controls for the ship's communication system. "No clear markings," Daniel replied, "and it's broadcasting on frequencies we don't recognize. Could be pirates, scavengers, or..." He trailed off, unwilling to say the word aliens. Everyone aboard the ship already knew they were surrounded by alien species, some friendly, others hostile but encountering something completely unknown was unsettling. Laura hesitated for a moment before making her decision. If this new arrival turned out to be hostile, they were in no condition to fight. But if it wasn't, well, they didn't have much choice but to find out. "Send a transmission," she ordered. "Let's see if they respond." The message went out, a standard greeting used by the Resistance whenever they encountered unfamiliar ships. For several long minutes, there was only silence. The mysterious vessel continued moving closer, undeterred by the chaos around it. Then, finally, a reply crackled through the speakers. The voice was calm, steady, and unmistakably human. "This is Captain Ryan Carter, of the SS Horizon," the voice said. "We're detecting multiple ships in your vicinity. Are you in need of assistance?" Laura exchanged a glance with Daniel. Human. Out here. It didn't make sense. Earth had barely begun exploring beyond its own solar system, let alone ventured this far into the galaxy. And yet, the accent was unmistakably an American one, plain and simple. Laura took a deep breath and responded, This is Commander Laura Hayes of the Resistance Fleet. We're under attack by the Krillian Empire. Who are you, and where did you come from?" There was a brief pause, as if the person on the other end needed a moment to process what she'd said. When he spoke again, his tone was cautious but curious. "Earth. My crew and I are from Earth. We've only recently developed faster-than-light travel, and, well, let's just say we stumbled onto your little skirmish by accident. Earth." The word sent a ripple of disbelief through the bridge. Earthlings shouldn't have been able to reach this part of the galaxy, let alone build a ship capable of surviving such a dangerous environment. But skepticism quickly gave way to desperation. The Krillians were closing in fast, their weapons charging for another barrage. If this Earthship could help even just a little, it might mean the difference between life and death. "What can you do?" Laura asked bluntly. She didn't have time for pleasantries or explanations. "Weapons online, shields holding steady," Ryan replied. "Not much experience with combat, but we're willing to learn. Tell us what you need." Laura hesitated again, weighing her options. Trusting strangers was always risky, especially in a situation like this. But they were out of choices. "Stay close to us," she instructed. "Follow our lead, and try not to get yourselves killed." As the SS Horizon moved into formation, alongside the Resistance fleet, Laura couldn't help but feel a flicker of curiosity about these newcomers. Earth had always seemed so distant, almost mythical, to the rest of the galaxy. Its people were known for their creativity and adaptability, traits that had allowed them to survive countless challenges on their home planet. Could those same qualities give them a chance against the Krillians? Only time would tell. The battle resumed with renewed intensity as the Krillian ships closed in. Laser beams sliced through space, narrowly missing the smaller vessels of the Resistance fleet. Explosions lit up the darkness, sending shock waves rippling through the asteroid field. Amid the chaos, the SS Horizon proved surprisingly resilient. Its design was crude compared to the sleek warships of the Krillians, but it packed a punch. Ryan's crew coordinated their attacks with surprising efficiency, targeting weak points in the enemy's defenses and buying precious seconds for the Resistance to regroup. Laura watched the Horizon's movements with growing admiration. These Earthlings might not have been trained soldiers, but they were quick learners. More importantly, they didn't hesitate to put themselves in harm's way to protect others. It was a quality she hadn't seen in a long time, not since the early days of the Resistance, before the war had worn everyone down to exhaustion. When the dust settled and the Krillians retreated, the survivors gathered to assess the damage. Several ships had been lost, including some of the fleet's best pilots, but thanks to the unexpected intervention of the SS Horizon, the core of the Resistance remained intact. As Laura approached Ryan to thank him, she found herself wondering if this chance encounter might be more than just luck. Perhaps it was a sign that the tide of the war could finally begin to turn. Ryan stepped out of his ship, wearing a simple uniform that bore no insignia or decoration. His dark hair was slightly tousled, and his brown eyes carried the weight of someone who had seen too much in too short a time. Despite his casual appearance, there was an air of quiet confidence about him, a sense that he understood the gravity of the situation, but wasn't overwhelmed by it. "You saved us today," Laura said simply, extending her hand. "I don't know how you ended up here, but I'm glad you did." Ryan shook her hand firmly, meeting her gaze without hesitation. "We didn't do much," he admitted, "but we'll keep helping however we can. This isn't our fight, but that doesn't mean we can ignore it." Laura nodded, appreciating his honesty. In a galaxy consumed by despair, Ryan's straightforwardness was refreshing. Maybe, just maybe, these Earthlings really could make a difference. And if they could, then perhaps there was still hope for the galaxy after all. The galaxy was burning until Earth's warship showed up on their radar after the battle. The Resistance fleet limped toward a nearby moon to regroup. The SS Horizon followed closely behind, its bulky frame looking out of place among the sleeker, more advanced ships of the Resistance. Laura knew that bringing an unfamiliar ship into their ranks was risky, but they had no choice. Without the Horizon's help, many of her people would have died in the asteroid field. Still, trust didn't come easily, not in a war where betrayal could mean extinction. As the ships docked inside a hidden base carved into the moon's icy surface, Laura gathered her senior officers for a meeting. She wanted answers about these Earthlings and their intentions. Ryan Carter joined them, flanked by 2 members of his crew, Megan Scott, the chief engineer, and Alex Rivera, the ship's navigator. Both looked as out of place as their captain, wearing simple uniforms and carrying themselves with a quiet confidence that somehow made them seem both harmless and capable at the same time. Laura started the conversation bluntly. "You said you're from Earth," she began, leaning forward slightly in her chair. "How did you get here, and why?" Ryan nodded, clearly expecting the question. "It's a long story," he admitted, "but I'll give you the short version. Humanity has been working on faster-than-light travel for decades. We finally succeeded a few months ago. Our mission was supposed to be exploratory to see what's out there. We weren't looking for trouble." Megan chimed in, her voice soft, but steady. "We didn't even know this galaxy existed until we stumbled into it. When we saw the fighting, we thought it was some kind of training exercise or simulation. It wasn't until we picked up your distress signal that we realized how serious things were." Laura raised an eyebrow. "And yet you decided to jump into the middle of a war." Ryan shrugged. "We couldn't just sit there and do nothing. You were outnumbered and outgunned. Any decent person would have helped. Decent, maybe, but not everyone in the galaxy operated on principles of decency." Laura glanced around the room, noting the skeptical expressions on her officers' faces. Lieutenant Daniel Brooks, in particular, looked unconvinced. His arms were crossed tightly over his chest, and his jaw was set in a hard line. He'd lost too many friends to the Krillians to take chances with strangers. "This isn't a game," Daniel said sharply, breaking the silence. "Your ship might have held up today, but that doesn't mean you're ready for this fight. The Krillians don't show mercy. They'll tear you apart if they think you're a threat." Ryan didn't flinch. "We're aware of the risks," he replied calmly, "but sitting on the sidelines isn't an option either. If we can make a difference, even a small one, then we owe it to ourselves and to you to try." Laura appreciated Ryan's determination, but she also understood Daniel's concerns. Trusting outsiders was always dangerous, especially when lives depended on it. Still, something about Ryan's demeanor gave her pause. There was a sincerity in his words that felt genuine, almost naive in a way. On Earth, perhaps such idealism still had room to exist. Out here, it was re-rand, often fatal. "We'll need more than determination," Laura said finally, choosing her words carefully. "Your technology is primitive compared to ours, let alone the Krillians. How do you plan to keep up?" Megan leaned forward, her hands resting on the table. "Primitive doesn't mean useless," she said with a hint of pride. "Our systems are modular. We designed them to adapt quickly. Sure, we're not as fast or as strong as the Krillians, but we're resourceful. Give us time, and we'll find ways to level the playing field," Alex added, "and we've got experience dealing with problems on the fly. Back on Earth, we didn't always have access to the best tools or resources. Sometimes, improvisation was all we had." Laura considered their words. Resourcefulness and adaptability were valuable traits in a war like this one. The Krillians relied on brute force and overwhelming numbers. Creativity wasn't exactly their strong suit. Maybe there was a role for these Earthlings after all. "All right," Laura said, standing up to signal the end of the discussion. "For now, you're part of the fleet. But understand this. If you put my people in danger, I won't hesitate to cut you loose. Do we have an agreement?" Ryan stood as well, meeting her gaze evenly. "Agreement, understood. We'll earn your trust. Over the next few days, tensions simmered between the resistance and the newcomers. Many of Laura's crew viewed the Earthlings with suspicion, unsure whether they were allies or liabilities. Some whispered that inviting them into the fleet was a mistake, while others argued that humanity's presence could bring fresh ideas and maybe even hope to a losing cause. Daniel was among the loudest critics. He didn't trust the Horizon's crew, particularly Megan. Her constant tinkering with the ship's systems struck him as reckless, and he worried that her experiments might compromise the entire fleet. During one heated exchange, he confronted her directly. "You're playing with forces you don't understand," he snapped, pointing at the makeshift modifications scattered across the Horizon's engineering bay. "One wrong move, and you'll blow us all to pieces." Megan didn't back down. "I know what I'm doing," she shot back, tightening a bolt with practiced ease. "If you spent less time complaining and more time helping, maybe you'd see that." Their argument attracted the attention of Ryan, who stepped in before things escalated further. "That's enough," he said firmly, his tone leaving no room for debate. "We're all under pressure, but turning on each other won't solve anything, Daniel. Megan's work is critical to keeping this ship operational. Megan, we need to maintain open communication with the rest of the fleet. Let's focus on what matters." Daniel muttered something under his breath, but backed off. Though his glare lingered, Megan returned to her work without another word, though her clenched jaw betrayed her frustration. Watching the exchange, Laura couldn't help but admire Ryan's leadership style. He handled the situation with calm authority, diffusing the tension without alienating either side. Despite the friction, there were moments of cooperation that hinted at potential. Megan collaborated with the Resistance's engineers to upgrade the Horizon's weapons, incorporating elements of their technology into her designs. Alex worked closely with the navigators to map safer routes through contested space, using Earth's rudimentary star charts as a starting point. Even Ryan found common ground with Laura, discussing strategies and sharing insights about human psychology that sometimes baffled her, but ultimately proved useful. One evening, as the fleet prepared for their next mission, Laura joined Ryan on the observation deck of the Horizon. The view was breathtaking, the vast expanse of stars stretched out before them, interrupted only by the faint glow of distant nebulae. For a moment, neither of them spoke, content to simply take in the beauty of the universe. "I never imagined space would look like this," Ryan said quietly, breaking the silence. "Back on Earth, we dreamed about exploring the stars, but seeing it for real, it's humbling." Laura nodded. "It's easy to forget how beautiful it is when you're fighting for survival every day." Ryan turned to her, his expression thoughtful. "Do you ever wonder why we bother? Why we keep fighting, even when the odds are stacked against us?" "All the time," Laura admitted. "But then I remember what's at stake. If we give up, the Krillians win, and I can't let that happen." Ryan smiled faintly. "You remind me of someone I used to know. Always putting others first, no matter the cost." Before Laura could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship, signaling an incoming transmission. A scout ship had spotted a Krillian patrol heading straight for their position. The brief moment of peace was over. The attack came swiftly and without warning. The Krillians launched a barrage of missiles, forcing the fleet to scatter. The Horizon, slower and less maneuverable than the other ships, struggled to evade the assault. Explosions rocked the vessel as Megan shouted orders to her team, desperately trying to stabilize the shields. "We're taking heavy damage," Alex called out from the helm, his voice strained. "Shields are down to 30%. Ryan gripped the edge of the command console, his knuckles white. "Keep evading." "Laura, we need cover fire." Laura's flagship swooped in, drawing the Krillians' attention away from the Horizon. Her gunners unleashed a hail of laser fire, giving Ryan's crew precious seconds to recover. Meanwhile, Megan worked furiously to reroute power to the engines, muttering curses under her breath as sparks flew from overloaded circuits. "Got it?" she exclaimed triumphantly as the engines roared back to life. The horizon surged forward, narrowly avoiding another missile strike. With renewed momentum, Ryan ordered a counterattack, targeting the weakest points in the enemy formation. The battle raged on, each side refusing to yield. Finally, after what felt like hours, the Krillians retreated, leaving behind a trail of debris and damaged ships. Exhausted but victorious, the fleet regrouped once again as the dust settled. Laura approached Ryan, who was inspecting the damage to his ship. "You held your own out there," she said, a hint of approval in her voice. "Not bad for beginners." Ryan chuckled weakly. "Thanks. I think we earned a little respect today." Laura nodded. "Just don't let it go to your head. There's still a long road ahead." Ryan smiled, though his eyes betrayed the weight of the responsibility he now carried. "We'll be ready." The galaxy was burning, until Earth's warship showed up on their radar. The aftermath of the battle left the Resistance fleet battered but alive. The SS Horizon had proven itself capable, though barely. Its hull was scorched, its systems pushed to their limits, and its crew exhausted. Despite this, there was a newfound sense of cautious optimism among Laura's people. For the first time in what felt like forever, they had allies who weren't just willing to fight, but eager to learn and adapt. Still, trust was fragile, and the road ahead would test it at every turn. In the days that followed, Megan Scott worked tirelessly in the Horizon's engineering bay, surrounded by tools and parts scavenged from damaged ships. Her hands moved with practiced precision as she rewired circuits and reinforced shields. She knew the Horizon couldn't compete with the Krillians' advanced technology, but she refused to let that stop her. If anything, it fueled her determination to find creative solutions. "You're going to burn yourself out," Alex Rivera warned one evening, leaning against the doorway of the engineering bay. His voice carried a mix of concern and amusement. "Even you need sleep, you know." Megan glanced up briefly, her face streaked with grease and sweat. "Not until I figure out how to boost our shield efficiency. We can't afford another close call like last time." Alex sighed, but didn't argue. He'd learned early on that once Megan set her mind to something, there was no stopping her. Instead, he grabbed a nearby wrench and started helping her secure a loose panel. "You're lucky you've got us around," he said with a smirk. "Most captains wouldn't put up with this kind of obsession." "Ryan understands," Megan replied, her tone softening slightly. "He knows how important this is. Besides, it's not just about winning battles. It's about proving we belong here." Alex nodded, his expression turning serious. "Yeah, but some of these guys don't see it that way. They think we're liabilities." "They'll come around," Megan said firmly, tightening a bolt with finality. "We just have to show them what we're made of." Meanwhile, tensions between the Horizon's crew and the Resistance continued to simmer. Lieutenant Daniel Brooks remained the most vocal critic, his distrust of the Earthlings unshaken. During a joint strategy meeting, he voiced his concerns. Loudly, his sharp words cutting through the room like a blade. "These modifications are reckless," he snapped, gesturing at a schematic of the Horizon's upgraded weapons system. "You're adding stress to an already unstable framework. One wrong move, and your ship could take half of ours down with it." Megan clenched her fists, visibly restraining herself from snapping back. Ryan stepped in before the argument could escalate, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to Daniel's fiery temper. "We appreciate your input, Lieutenant," he said evenly, "but our systems are designed to handle adjustments. If you'd like, we can run simulations to prove their stability." Daniel crossed his arms, clearly unconvinced. "Simulations aren't the same as real combat. And speaking of which, have you even considered the psychological toll this war will take on your crew, your civilians playing soldier? How long do you think you'll last?" The room fell silent, the weight of his words hanging heavy in the air. It was true that the Horizon's crew lacked the hardened resolve of seasoned warriors. Back on Earth, they had been explorers and scientists, not fighters. But Ryan met Daniel's challenge head-on, his voice steady and resolute. We knew what we were signing up for when we joined this fight. Yes, we're new to this galaxy and, yes, we're still learning. But giving up isn't an option. Not for us, and not for anyone else here. Laura watched the exchange carefully, impressed by Ryan's composure. She had seen countless soldiers crack under pressure, their confidence shattered by doubt and fear. Yet Ryan stood firm, his belief in his crew unwavering. It reminded her of her own early days in the Resistance, when hope had seemed so distant, yet still worth fighting for. After the meeting, Laura pulled Daniel aside. "I know you're worried," she said quietly. "But undermining Ryan isn't helping anyone. If they say they can contribute, we should give them a chance." Daniel frowned, his frustration evident. "Commander, I'm just trying to protect our people. These Earthlings are good-hearted, sure, but they're not ready for this. Every mistake they make puts us all at risk." "I understand," Laura replied. "But remember why we started this resistance. We didn't have a choice then, and neither do they now. Sometimes, faith has to come before proof." Daniel didn't respond immediately, his gaze dropping to the floor. Finally, he nodded reluctantly. "All right, I'll try to keep an open mind, but if they screw up, they won't," Laura interrupted firmly. "And if they do, we'll deal with it together." Despite the lingering skepticism, small moments of camaraderie began to emerge. Megan found herself bonding with Sarah Lewis, one of the Resistance's engineers, over shared frustrations about stubborn machinery. Together, they brainstormed ways to integrate Earth's modular systems with the Resistance's more advanced tech. Their collaboration led to breakthroughs that neither could have achieved alone. Alex, meanwhile, formed an unlikely friendship with Marcus Reed, a navigator known for his dry humor and quick thinking. The two spent hours poring over star charts, comparing Earth's rudimentary maps with the Resistance's detailed databases. Alex marveled at the complexity of the galaxy, while Marcus appreciated the simplicity of Earth's approach to navigation. Even Ryan managed to win over some of his critics. During a routine patrol, the Horizon detected a disabled Krillian drone drifting near the fleet. While most of the Resistance wanted to destroy it immediately, Ryan suggested capturing it instead. With careful maneuvering, Alex guided the Horizon into position, allowing Megan and her team to disable the drone's self-destruct mechanism. Inside, they discovered fragments of data that hinted at weaknesses in the Krillian fleet's communication network. "This could be huge," Laura said, reviewing the findings with Ryan. "If we can exploit these vulnerabilities, we might be able to disrupt their coordination during battles." Ryan smiled faintly, though his eyes betrayed the weight of responsibility settling onto his shoulders. "Just doing our part." Laura studied him for a moment, noting the subtle changes in his demeanor. Gone was the wide-eyed explorer who had stumbled into the galaxy unaware of its dangers. In his place stood a leader shaped by adversity, carrying the hopes of his crew and the expectations of an entire fleet. She wondered if he realized how much he reminded her of herself as the days turned into weeks. The Horizon's presence became less of a novelty and more of a necessity. Its unique capabilities filled gaps in the Resistance's strategy, while its crew's ingenuity inspired fresh ideas. Still, challenges loomed on the horizon literally and figuratively. Reports began circulating about a massive Krillian armada, gathering near the edge of contested space, preparing for what promised to be their largest assault yet. Laura called an emergency meeting to discuss their options. The mood in the room was grim. Everyone knew the stakes. The Krillians weren't just aiming to crush the Resistance, they were planning to obliterate any hope of rebellion once and for all. "We need a plan," Laura said, her voice steady, despite the tension in the air. "Something bold enough to throw them off balance." Ryan leaned forward, his expression thoughtful. What if we hit them where they least expect it? Instead of defending our position, we strike at their supply lines. Without reinforcements, their attack will falter. Daniel raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical. That's risky. If we fail, we'll leave ourselves completely exposed. It's also our best shot, Ryan countered. The Krillians rely on overwhelming numbers. Cut off their resources, and they'll panic. Laura nodded slowly, considering the idea. It's dangerous, but Ryan's right. We can't afford to play it safe anymore. Let's start mapping potential targets. As the meeting concluded, Ryan lingered behind, waiting until the others had left before approaching Laura. You know this isn't just my fight, he said quietly. If things go south, I don't want my crew dragging yours down with us. Laura shook her head. It stopped being just your fight the moment you decided to help. Whether we succeed or fail, we'll face it together. Ryan hesitated, then offered a small smile. Thanks. That means a lot. Outside, the stars twinkled faintly, oblivious to the storm brewing below. The galaxy was still burning, its flames fueled by hatred and despair. But amidst the chaos, a spark of unity had ignited a fragile alliance forged from desperation and hope. And as long as that spark remained, the fight would continue. The galaxy was burning, until Earth's warship showed up on their radar. The Resistance fleet prepared for what would likely be their most dangerous mission yet. Ryan's plan to strike at the Krillians' supply lines was bold, risky, and full of unknowns. But desperate times called for desperate measures. As the crews worked tirelessly to ready their ships, tensions ran high. Every decision felt like it carried the weight of survival or annihilation. Laura moved between the ships, checking in with her captains and ensuring everyone understood the strategy. She stopped briefly at the SS Horizon, where Megan and Alex were making final adjustments. The ship looked different now. Its once clunky design, streamlined with modifications inspired by both Earth and Resistance technology. It still wasn't as sleek or advanced as the other vessels, but it had earned a begrudging respect from even the harshest critics. How's it coming? Laura asked as she stepped onto the bridge. Ryan glanced up from his console, his expression focused but calm. We're almost ready. Megan doubled the power output to the engines, and Alex mapped out the safest route to the target zone. Megan nodded, wiping grease-stained hands on her jumpsuit. The shields are holding steady. 2. If everything goes according to plan, we should be able to slip past their patrols without being detected. Laura raised an eyebrow. And if it doesn't, then we improvise, Ryan replied simply. His tone was matter-of-fact, leaving no room for doubt about his resolve. Laura studied him for a moment before nodding. Good luck out there. We're counting on you. As she turned to leave, Alex caught her arm gently. Commander, he said, his voice quieter than usual. If something happens, if this doesn't work, just know we're doing our best. For all of us. Laura smiled faintly, touched by his sincerity. I know, and that's why I trust you. The mission began under the cover of darkness, or as close to darkness as space allowed. The fleet split into smaller groups, each tasked with creating diversions to draw the Krillians' attention away from the real objective. A heavily guarded supply depot located near the edge of contested territory, the SS Horizon, along with 2 Resistance ships, would infiltrate the area and disable the depot's defenses, allowing the rest of the fleet to launch a surprise attack as they approached the target. Ryan monitored the radar closely, his eyes scanning for any sign of trouble. Megan sat nearby, her fingers flying over the controls as she adjusted the ship's cloaking device, a hastily assembled piece of tech cobbled together from spare parts. Alex guided the Horizon through a narrow asteroid field, his focus unshakable despite the chaos around them. We're within range, Alex announced finally, his voice tight with anticipation. Activating cloaking now. The ship shimmered faintly before disappearing entirely from view. For a few tense moments, everything was silent. Then, suddenly, alarms blared. "They've spotted us," Megan exclaimed, panic edging her voice. The cloaking device must have malfunctioned. Ryan cursed under his breath, but quickly regained his composure. "Alex, get us behind that moon." "Megan, shut down non-essential systems. We need to reduce our energy signature." The horizon veered sharply, narrowly avoiding a barrage of laser fire from nearby Krillian patrol ships. Megan worked furiously to stabilize the cloaking device, while Alex maneuvered the ship into the shadow of a nearby celestial body. Once hidden, they held their breath, waiting for the enemy to pass. After what felt like an eternity, the Krillian ships moved on, apparently convinced they had lost their target. Ryan let out a slow exhale, his shoulders relaxing slightly. "Nice work, team. Let's not make that mistake again." Despite the close call, the horizon reached the supply depot undetected. The facility was massive, its towering structures bristling with weapons, and surrounded by layers of defensive drones. It was clear that the Krillians considered this location critical to their operations. "This is going to be tricky," Ryan muttered, studying the layout on the main screen. "Their defenses are tighter than we thought." Megan leaned forward, pointing at a cluster of generators powering the depot's shield network. "If we can take out those generators, we'll create a weak point in their perimeter. From there, the resistance ships can move in and finish the job." Ryan nodded. "Doable, but we'll need to act fast. Once they realize what we're doing, they'll throw everything they've got at us." Alex raised a hand hesitantly. "What? About reinforcements? Shouldn't we call for backup?" "No time," Ryan replied firmly. "By the time they arrive, the Krillians will have regrouped. This has to be quick and clean." With that, the horizon launched a series of precision strikes against the generators, disabling them one by one. Megan coordinated the attacks, her voice steady as she relayed instructions to the crew. Alex navigated the ship through increasingly dense fields of debris, dodging retaliatory fire from automated turrets. Finally, the last generator exploded in a brilliant flash of light, leaving the depot vulnerable. Ryan immediately transmitted the coordinates to the waiting resistance fleet, signaling them to begin their assault. Within minutes, the sky above the depot erupted in chaos as ships clashed in a dazzling display of firepower. But victory came at a cost. During the battle, the horizon sustained heavy damage, its shields flickering dangerously low. A direct hit sent shockwaves rippling through the ship, throwing Megan and Alex off their feet. Smoke filled the air as sparks flew from overloaded circuits. "Shields are failing," Megan shouted, scrambling to her station. "We need to pull back." Ryan clenched his jaw, torn between retreating and staying to support the resistance. Before he could decide, another explosion rocked the ship, this time severing a critical power conduit. Lights flickered, and alarms screamed throughout the vessel. "We're losing life support," Alex yelled, his voice rising in panic. "If we don't fix this, we're done for." Megan didn't hesitate. Grabbing a toolkit, she crawled into the damaged section of the ship, ignoring the searing heat radiating from exposed wires. Her hands moved with practiced speed, reconnecting broken circuits and rerouting power to essential systems. Sweat dripped down her face as she worked, her mind racing against the clock. "Got it," she shouted triumphantly as the lights stabilized and the hum of the engines returned. Exhausted but relieved, she climbed back onto the bridge, collapsing into her seat. "We're stable for now." Ryan placed a hand on her shoulder, gratitude shining in his eyes. "You saved us, again." Before anyone could respond, Laura's voice crackled over the comms. "Horizon, status report. Are you still operational?" Ryan grabbed the mic, his voice firm despite the chaos around him. "Barely, Commander, but we're holding. The depot is disabled, and your ships are finishing the cleanup." "Good work," Laura replied, her tone softening. Fall back to Rendezvous Point Delta. We'll cover you. As the Horizon limped away from the battlefield, its crew reflected on what they had accomplished and what they had risked. They had proven themselves capable of standing toe-to-toe with the Krillians, even when the odds seemed insurmountable. But the scars of the fight lingered, both on the ship and in their hearts. Later that evening, Ryan stood alone on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. The galaxy was vast and beautiful, but also cruel and unforgiving. He wondered how long humanity could endure such a relentless struggle. Would they ever truly belong here, or were they destined to remain outsiders? You did good today, Laura said softly, joining him at the railing. Your crew fought bravely. Ryan managed a small smile. Thanks, but bravery alone won't win this war. No, Laura agreed, but it's a start, and sometimes that's all we have. They stood in silence for a while, watching the distant flashes of light as the Resistance fleet continued its campaign. Despite the destruction and loss, there was a sense of purpose, shared determination to keep fighting, no matter how bleak things seemed. Ryan broke the silence first. Do you ever wonder if it's worth it? All this sacrifice, all this pain? Laura sighed, her gaze fixed on the horizon. Every day. But then I remember what we're fighting for, not just survival, but freedom, a chance to build something better. That's worth every bit of it. Ryan nodded slowly, absorbing her words. For the first time since arriving in the galaxy, he felt a glimmer of hope, not just for Earth, but for everyone who refused to give up. The road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, but as long as people like Laura stood beside him, he believed they could find a way forward. Out among the stars, the galaxy still burned, but amidst the flames, a new light was beginning to shine, one born of courage, unity, and the unyielding belief that even the smallest spark could ignite change. The galaxy was burning. Earth's warship showed up on their radar. The victory at the supply depot had been costly, but it was a turning point for the Resistance. For the first time in months, the Krillians were forced to retreat, their carefully orchestrated plans disrupted by the Horizon's daring strike. The fleet regrouped at a remote outpost hidden within the rings of a gas giant, using the planet's magnetic field to mask their presence from enemy sensors. Despite the damage to their ships and the weariness etched into every face, there was a renewed sense of hope among the survivors. Ryan walked through the corridors of the SS Horizon, inspecting the repairs underway. The ship had taken a beating. During the mission, its hull scorched, and its systems strained to their limits. Megan led a team of engineers, both human and alien, working tirelessly to patch up the damage. Sparks flew as welding tools cut through twisted metal, while others rerouted power lines to bypass damaged circuits. Alex coordinated efforts from the bridge, ensuring that resources were allocated efficiently. You've got quite the operation here, Laura remarked, as she joined Ryan on his inspection tour. Her voice carried a mix of admiration and concern. But are you sure your crew can handle all this? They look exhausted. Ryan glanced at her, his expression thoughtful. They're tired, yes, but they're also motivated. This isn't just about fixing the ship, it's about proving we belong here. Every weld, every circuit we repair, is a step toward earning your trust. Laura nodded, though her brow furrowed slightly. I appreciate the effort, but don't push them too hard. Burnout will cost us more than broken machinery. Ryan smiled faintly. Message received. I'll make sure everyone gets some rest soon. As they passed through the engineering bay, Megan looked up from her work, brushing strands of hair out of her eyes. Captain, she called out, waving him over. We need to talk about the shields. They're holding together, but barely. If we run into another fight like that last one, we're toast. Ryan crouched beside her, examining the exposed panels of the shield generator. What do you suggest? Megan hesitated, choosing her words carefully. We could try reverse engineering some of the Krillian tech we salvaged from the depot. It's risky, their systems are completely different from ours, but if we can integrate even a small piece, it might give us an edge. Laura raised an eyebrow. You're thinking of using their own weapons against them? Exactly, Megan replied, her tone firm. It's not ideal, but desperate times call for desperate measures. Ryan stood up, considering the idea. Do what you need to do. Just keep me updated on progress and risks. While Megan and her team worked on upgrading the Horizon's defenses, Ryan turned his attention to strategy. He met with Laura and her senior officers in the command center of the outpost, poring over star charts and intelligence reports. The Krillians were regrouping, their movements suggesting they were planning a counterattack. Time was running out. We need to hit them again before they recover, Ryan said, pointing to a cluster of red markers on the map. These outposts are key to their supply chain. Take them out, and we cripple their ability to wage war. Daniel Brooks frowned, leaning back in his chair. That's easier said than done. Those bases are heavily fortified. Even with the Horizon's upgrades, we'd be walking into a trap. Ryan didn't argue. Instead, he tapped the screen, highlighting a nearby asteroid belt. What if we use the terrain to our advantage? We lure their forces into the belt, where their larger ships can't maneuver easily, then ambush them. Laura leaned forward, intrigued. Go on. The Horizon acts as bait, Ryan explained. We draw their attention, making them think we're vulnerable. Meanwhile, the rest of the fleet hides in the asteroids, waiting for the signal to strike. It's risky, Laura admitted. If they catch on, the Horizon will be destroyed. Ryan met her gaze steadily. We're willing to take that risk. Besides, we've got a few tricks up our sleeve. Daniel scoffed under his breath, clearly unconvinced, but Laura silenced him with a sharp look before turning back to Ryan. All right, let's run simulations and see how it plays out. If it works, we'll proceed. Over the next few days, the fleet prepared for the ambush. Megan and her team completed the integration of Krillian shielding technology, boosting the Horizon's defenses significantly. Alex fine-tuned the navigation systems, ensuring the ship could weave through the asteroid field without colliding with debris. Meanwhile, Ryan drilled his crew on emergency protocols, emphasizing communication and coordination. Despite the preparations, tension hung thick in the air. The Horizon's crew knew they were walking into dangerous territory, and the stakes couldn't have been higher. During a quiet moment, Alex approached Ryan in the observation deck, his usual confidence replaced by unease. Captain, he began hesitantly, do you really think this is going to work? Or are we just buying time? Ryan sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. Honestly, I don't know. But sitting around waiting for the Krillians to crush us isn't an option. Sometimes, you have to take a chance, Evan, if it scares the hell out of you. Alex nodded slowly, his expression softening. Just promise me one thing. If things go south, don't let pride get in the way. Pull us out if you have to. Ryan placed a hand on his shoulder. You have my word. The day of the ambush arrived, and the fleet moved into position. The Horizon drifted lazily toward the Krillian outpost, broadcasting false signals to appear weaker than it actually was. As expected, the enemy took the bait, sending a squadron of cruisers to intercept. Their sleek ships closed in quickly, weapons charging for an assault. Here we go, Ryan muttered, gripping the arms of his chair as the first volley of laser fire streaked past the Horizon. Alex, start evasive maneuvers. Megan, keep those shields up. The ship rocked violently as explosions erupted around it, debris scattering in all directions. Alarms blared, and smoke filled the air, but the crew remained focused, executing their roles with practiced precision. There, following us, Alex shouted, his hands flying across the controls as he guided the Horizon deeper into the asteroid field. Behind them, the Krillian ships struggled to keep pace, their bulkier frames ill-suited for the narrow passages between rocks. Now, Laura's voice crackled over the comms. All units, engage. From their hiding spots, the Resistance fleet emerged, launching a devastating barrage of missiles and laser fire. Caught off guard, the Krillians scrambled to respond, their formations breaking apart as chaos erupted. Explosions lit up the darkness, casting eerie shadows across the asteroids. On the horizon's bridge, Ryan watched the battle unfold with a mixture of awe and relief. Looks like the plan's working, Megan grinned, her eyes glued to the monitors. Told you we could pull it off. But the fight wasn't over yet. One of the Krillian cruisers broke free from the melee, targeting the horizon with relentless accuracy. Its cannons fired repeatedly, battering the ship's already weakened hull. Shields are down to 20%. Megan yelled, her voice tinged with panic. We can't take much more of this. Ryan clenched his jaw, his mind racing. Alex, bring us around. Head straight for that cruiser. What? Alex exclaimed, his head snapping toward Ryan. Are you crazy? They'll tear us apart. Trust me, Ryan replied firmly. Just do it. Reluctantly, Alex obeyed, spinning the horizon around and accelerating toward the enemy ship. At the last second, Megan activated the newly integrated Krillian shielding technology, creating a temporary barrier that absorbed the incoming fire. The horizon rammed into the cruiser, disabling its engines and leaving it adrift. Cheers erupted on the bridge as the remaining Krillian forces retreated, overwhelmed by the Resistance's coordinated assault. Exhausted but triumphant, the fleet regrouped, assessing the damage and tending to the wounded. Later that evening, Laura visited the horizon, finding Ryan standing alone on the observation deck. The stars shimmered outside the viewport, reflecting off his weary face. You did it, she said softly, joining him at the railing. Your plan worked. Ryan chuckled weakly. Barely. Another minute, and we'd have been space dust. But you held your ground, Laura replied, her tone warm with admiration. That's what matters. You've earned our trust, Ryan, not just mine, but everyone's. Ryan looked at her, surprise flickering in his eyes. Even Daniel, Laura, smirked. Well, maybe not Daniel, but he'll come around eventually. They shared a laugh, the tension of the day melting away. For a brief moment, the weight of the galaxy's troubles felt lighter, replaced by a quiet sense of accomplishment. The road ahead would still be long and fraught with challenges, but tonight they allowed themselves to savor the victory. Out among the stars, the galaxy still burned, but amidst the flames, a spark of defiance glimmered, a reminder that even in the darkest times, hope could shine through. And as long as people like Ryan and Laura refused to give up, the fight would continue.